In a universe where life does not end at death, we explore the infinite possibilities forged by our very minds. Welcome to Arthadian Anthologies. Greetings, fellow travelers and storytellers. Welcome to the Arthadian Anthologies podcast, where I, MS Arthadian, dive into the ever-expanding universe I'm developing and the deeper meaning behind it all. Last century, you learned that Kyver attempted to get Hikori X4 and Drastic Ontav over to the southern channel to save Zentimora, but they were too late. Then, upon their arrival back at the Rin Tower in Vo'aro, Hikori was ordered to the medbay, while Drastic was relieved of his assignment. This came as a shock to all of them as Kyver stormed out of the chamber. But before Drastic could leave, Vir Enzok asked him to stay for one more thing. That thing being a secret directive, all while Hikori was given grim news. Drastic stands there, astonished by what he just heard. Excuse me, sir, but did I hear that correctly? You wanted her to get captured? Vir Enzok paces closer to Knight Ontav. It's not what we wanted, but it was a variable we anticipated. So then, what's the plan now that she's been captured? Drastic asks. We speculate she is being taken to the admin consult as we speak, and once there, she will be placed into a virtual reality game in which we have spectators viewing and prepared to relieve her once she has completed her own mission. Vir Enzok explains. How are you so sure about this? Vir Enzok gives him a dead stare. There are many operatives across this Foundation region that serve in multiple ways. The Syndicate Web may have their resources, but they pale in comparison to what we have. And now that they've been succeeding for some time, they've become sloppy. And what better way to uncover the corruption at its heart than to put an elite knight at the center of it? Drastic listens, nodding his head, understanding the motives behind the mission a bit more. Alright, I can accept that. But what about Kyver? Vir Enzok nods with a smile. Your new mission will be to watch him carefully. Allow him to go through with whatever plans he has brewing in his mind. Sir, he must be allowed his freedom, but he will know that he cannot rely on any assistance. You are not to help him, even at the cost of his own life. But sir! Vir Enzok shakes his head with his eyes shut. You mustn't. It is mine and Thadian's belief that Kyver is a chosen, and a unique one at that. Drastic halts his prying, then says, If that's the case, what happens if he is captured like Zanti? Vir Enzok breathes in slowly, then releases the breath. There are 3 likely scenarios that may occur. The first being Kyver succeeds in its finding of Zentimora and then requests to take a squadron to rescue her. At which point, we will explain to him that it was her mission to get captured and to see how he would handle the rescue. This scenario is if everything goes off without a problem. The second entails Kyver's mission for Senator Voss, which is tied to this entire thing in an unfortunate way. But if he's successful, he may uncover the logistics behind the shipments of what is causing the Nexus Chamber disruption in the first place. And lastly, is the worst case scenario. If Kyver is to be captured, it's very likely that he will be pressed into a corner and use the abilities he's been hiding. Specifically, his rune forging. Wait. Jessic stops him from continuing. Kyver's a rune forger? Surprised you didn't catch on when it was mentioned his master is Thadian Sor. Jessic winces a bit. I didn't put them together. I just figured Master Sor is connected to the Knights due to the elite knight William Sor being his father and all. Yes. Vir Enzok veers down, with a mournful look on his face. Jessic sees that something struck the Vir. I'm sorry. Did I say something wrong? Enzok shakes his head. No. William was a close ally. Even after over half a century since his passing, he still manages to have a connection to everything. But that's for another time. Perhaps when you make elite. Drastic bows to him. My condolences, sir. I will do what I can for you and Master Sor in this mission. Then, suddenly, Vir Enzok's codex rings. He answers it privately, and his tone shifts to a more somber one. I see. Please tell her of her condition. He pauses as Dressic tries to guess who he's talking about. Yes. Vir Enzok continues. I understand. Break the news slowly to her. I will be there shortly. He hangs the call up, looking back at Drastic. I need you to do something for me, Drastic. Of course, sir. Come with me to the med bay. Akori has fallen ill. What? What do you mean? She was fine when we saw her. Vir Enzok begins his exit. Please, just follow me, and everything will be explained. As Drastic is led to the medbay on level 28, Vir Enzok begins explaining what happened and that Kyver is not to know. Once reaching the medbay, Drastic and Akori meet each other's eyes. He steps up to her bed and sighs as she is visibly torn, unable to formulate words. As nonverbal cues are thrown around, Vir Enzok enters slowly. Akori looks up, her anger swelling in her. You knew about this outbreak and didn't bother to inform us? Vir Enzok, with his eyes closed, responds. Your anger is justified. The truth is, we were fairly certain the node chain we sent you to was clear of any virus. However, unfortunately, we assumed Kyver would at least inform myself or Senator Voss of Zentimora's capture before resorting to the two of you. So you're blaming this on Kyver now? Corey, just listen to him, Drastic says. No. This is our fault entirely. But thankfully we have a team that is working on discovering a potential cure. And if not that, a lasting treatment. Akori thinks about this. And what happens if this team is unsuccessful in both? It's unlikely, as this has been a specialized directive that has been in research for a little over 9 cycles now. They all go quiet as Vir Enzok approaches Akori, placing his palm on the side of her arm gently. I promise. It is close at hand, we will find a cure. But for now, take it one mark at a time and refrain from using your enhancements. I can no longer discuss information about this out of fear for you and your family's safety. He then looks at Drastic and nods. I must go now. Hikori sighs once more. My apologies, sir, for my outburst. Once I am able, if you need me for any operations, please use my skill set. She looks at him, determined to get back to work. He smiles and nods. I expect nothing less from the great Hikori X4. I will keep you updated. He bows to her, leaving the med bay and heading to the lift, which takes him to the top level of the Rin Tower. As he steps off the lift, he approaches his personal chamber, beginning to contact Master Forger, Thadian Sor. As he enters the chamber, he approaches his desk that overlooks Vo Aro. He then places the codex into a slot in the side of it, which causes the surface to change to a touchscreen monitor, all while a pyramid extends off the desktop and projects a holocall, with Master Sor on the other end. Vir, good to hear from you. Hello, Thade. I wish I were calling with better news. Meanwhile, on the other end of the path, inside the Rinzoid where hundreds of citizens gather to shop, relax, and entertain themselves. Drastic searches for Kyver as he tracks his codex transmitter to a pub. Entering aside, a host greets him. Oh, hello, Knight. Welcome to Venner's Legs. How can I assist you? Has another knight entered here recently? Perhaps with a cowl on? Grumpy face. Oh, yes. He should be at the bar, the host says as Drastic nods and walks into the center of the establishment. Inside are gambling tables, a band, dancing, and a plethora of dining tables with a bar at the far right corner. Sitting at the edge of it is Kyver, who appears to be swirling a drink around, concentrating on it closely. Patting him on the back, Drastic sits beside him and calls the bartender over. Get me a Blue Nova on the rocks. The bartender nods and begins preparing the beverage. Kyver continues to swirl his drink in deep thought. Is this some kind of ritual you have when things don't go according to plan? Drastic asks, as his Blue Nova is placed in front of him. There was nothing you could do, Kyver, he says as he takes a swig of his drink. Saying this, Kyver stops swirling his glass and takes a sip. Then he sets it down carefully, keeping his eyes glued to the liquid inside it. There are so many things we could have done, and yet your orders stand down. Everything I studied about these mythmakers over the past week feels like it's going to waste. Drastic looks at him closely, but Kyver is so deep in thought that it's almost like he's a different person. Taking another larger swig, Drastic lets out a heavy sigh. Listen, he says. I only know what you heard about the mythmakers from Hikori, but I do agree we can't just let them get away with this. It's just... He pauses as he looks toward Kyver. The Vir took us off this directive. I'm not giving up, Drastic. This is not over. They don't know my face. They don't know who I am or what I'm capable of. Kyver's eyes glance up at Drastic's. Don't follow me. He stands up, leaving his drink unfinished. But before leaving, Kyver! Drastic takes hold of his shoulder. You'll need assistance. Let me gather intel and feed it to you, just as you did for us. Veering over his shoulder, Kyver sees Drastic as being serious. If you get caught, they could expunge you from the Knights. Are you sure about this? Drastic shrugs. The task force could be a nice gig when all is said and done. But for you, Kyver, you belong here. Kyver nods and embraces him. Thank you. I'm thankful to have a friend like you. But as soon as I'm in, he pulls away from Drastic. Promise you'll cut ties with me. Kyver, promise. Drastic hesitates, then nods. Thank you. Drastic sighs. So what's your plan? I want to hit the Mythmakers where it hurts. But first, I need to meet with my master. In the meantime, if you can go to the directive chamber and gather the archive data on the Mythmakers I acquired, that will give us targets to disassemble, making it harder for them to spread their propaganda, Kyver explains to Drastic. The two of them set out for their separate yet converging paths. Kyver goes to Archaea to meet with his master, while Drastic heads back to level 16 of the Rin Tower in order to begin their secret directive. All of this while Hikori is being tested for this new disease virus. But what plans are in motion to put a stop to this illness plaguing the Kron? Only time will tell. After all, it is the battlefield this game is played on. I thank you for listening to this entry. Just 2 more entries left of Season 3. Next week, Vir Enzok joins Thadian Sor in a secure conversation regarding deeper information into the problems at hand. Then, for the final entry of Season 3, we will be having a special Reborn in Power episode taking place about a month after this whole ordeal. You'll get to hear myself, as well as Amanda, Jaren, and Oscar come together for a Reborn in Power finale, with our lore master being Ryan Katz. So I hope you enjoy the final stretch of this season. If you are just now joining the anthology, check out our ThadianAnthologies.com for more content that expands this new expanding universe. You can also support the creation of this podcast by donating through the link found in the description of this episode. Until next time, travelers, be safe, stay safe, and if death comes to you, may you be reborn in power.